Hi, I'm Greg Staten, Distinguished Technologist for Color Science within HP's Displays Group. And I'm here to talk to you today about how to use the user calibration features that are built into the Omen Transcend 32. In order to recalibrate your monitor, you need to download and install HP Display Center, which is available on the Microsoft Store. The software is designed to let you control your monitor very much like Omen Gaming Hub does, but it has some additional functionality, as I mentioned, including calibration. The calibration is available in the color group within HP Display Center. And if we look at the right side, you can see the various options we have available. All of the presets can be recalibrated. I can choose to modify a preset, I can recalibrate a preset, or I can even create a new preset. Up to 3 additional presets can be created, so you could leave the display in its native mode and build new additional presets as desired. If I choose recalibrate, it is going to recalibrate the preset exactly as it was configured at the factory. If I choose modify, it allows me to change all the characteristics of that preset. And if I create, again, everything is available, but it makes a new preset. In addition, we do have the ability to recalibrate HDR. The HDR recalibration does not have any choices because the HDR spec is standardized. It will calibrate to HDR10, or more formally referred to as ITU-R BT.2100. Let's click on Modify to modify one of the existing presets. The first thing it's going to do is go out and read all of the preset information off the monitor. This may take a moment. Once the data has been read in, we get to go through the process of creating or modifying a preset. When I click Begin, it's going to ask me which of the ones do I want to modify. Again, if I'd chosen Create New, it would just leave this step and we'd be building a brand new one. Let's say I want to modify Display P3. I'll click Next, and it gives me 3 different options for how I want to recalibrate it. The idea here is that you can use standards-based if you are familiar with gamuts and EOTFs and you want to exactly specify what you target. Simulate Other Device is designed to, for example, make it look like a Samsung Galaxy phone. And Use Case Profile will ask you a series of questions about the environment you're in and the type of content you're working on, so you can create a preset based on those characteristics. I'm going to click on Standards Based, and it's going to ask me for the gamut that I want to use. I can choose from 4 standard gamuts: P3, BT 2020, sRGB, or 709. They have the same gamut. Or I can choose BT 601. BT 601 is an older standard definition gamut that was used on televisions. Or I can click on Customize. Notice for whatever one I pick, it will show me the gamut targets. You can identify those that have larger or wider gamuts. If I click on Customize, I can bring up a dialog that will allow me to specify by typing in the XY coordinates for the red, green, and blue primaries. I'm just going to leave it in P3 and click Next. It now asks me to specify the white point that I'm going to use, or the color of white. We're giving you 4 options: D65, which is the standard white for most use; D55, which is a little bit warmer; D50, which is quite a bit warmer; or DCI Cinema. D50 you may want to use if you're doing press proofing on your monitor. DCI Cinema is what you would use if you wanted to match a digital cinema projector's white point. And again, Customize allows you to enter in a custom white point as you want. In this case, I'd say I'm going to use something for print, so I'm going to choose D50. I now have to choose an EOTF or gamma. This means the grayscale response curve from black to white. And again, we have a series of defaults. There's a power 2.2 gamma, a power 2.4 gamma, or a power 2.6 gamma. 2.2 gamma is probably the one you want to use. We also have BT1886. This is a very specific EOTF for certain broadcast workflows. We can also choose sRGB EOTF, which some people prefer to use instead of power gamma. Let's say that we want to use a little bit dimmer room. 2.4 gamma is better if you're in a dim light environment. Whereas if I'm in dark, I would use 2.6 gamma. So let's say I'm in a very dim room, so I'm going to choose 2.4. I now allow it to set what is my brightness level that I want to have the monitor at. I recommend generally that you don't go with full bright 250 because in most environments, that's just too bright. The rule of thumb for the brightness you set your monitor to is it should be the same luminance as the illuminance of the surround, the area you're working in. If it is too bright relative to the surround, your eyes are going to be irising up and down as your eyes drift between the monitor and the surround, and it will cause eye fatigue. In fact, it is the #1 cause of eye fatigue for people working on their monitor is their monitor's too darn bright. In this case, because I'm in dim lighting, I want to use a 100 nit brightness because that's the target reference if I'm working in a dim environment. And it also matches a 2.4 gamma, which is what I said earlier. It's now going to give me a list of options on what we want to do. Notice it's setting the various values that we have. It allows me to also go in and modify the name of the preset, which if you've changed things from the default, I highly recommend that you do, so you know that it's different. The next thing we'll do then, if I click next, is it will check for measurement devices. You have to have a measurement device physically in your hand and plugged into the computer or to the monitor, assuming you have a USB connection between the computer and the monitor, which is required for calibration. This is a Calibrite Display Pro HL, but there are a number of other ones that are available, and on screen you see the list of instruments that we support. For the case of the Calibrite, I need to open the lid up so that this area is revealed. And using the counterweight, I am going to hang it on the monitor. And notice something, do you see how it's a little wobbly here? I recommend that you tilt your monitor back so that you get a nice hard fit. If you don't have a hard solid fit, there's a chance that some light will leak through there and you'll get inaccurate readings and you'll have a bad calibration. If you want to do the calibration, just simply hit the Start Calibration button and calibration will proceed. My recommendation is you do not do this with any bright lights directly hitting the monitor, because again, at the risk of this thing not being perfectly seated, you'll get leakage and get bad measurements. And also realize that it's going to take about 8 to 10 minutes for this calibration to happen. Instead, I'm going to hit back because what I'd like to do is show you briefly the other mode. So I'm going to just walk back through my options and let's choose the use case profile. In this case, it asks me to tell it what type of work am I doing. Photo editing, web design, graphic design, video editing, print, or gaming. These all have a set of rules based on what is the right conditions for your monitor to be in for these different types of things. For example, print production will use a D50 white point. Photo editing uses a wide gamut, Adobe RGB. Video editing uses a 709 gamut. So let's say that I'm going to do prints. I'm at print production. Next. It then asks me to tell it what the lighting of the room is. This allows us to set both the gamma and the luminance of the screen. So I'm going to tell it that I'm going to be dim lighting. Maybe there's no window. I just have low lights. And if I click next, it then is going to create a print production workflow. And again, the option is to rename the preset. I would click next. Once again, it checks the measurement device and I'm back to calibration again. We like to put the instrument right in the middle of the screen. That is because that's essentially a best practice for the industry. Because it's an OLED, there really won't be any difference if you put it in a different location. But we still recommend you always use the center of the screen. And by the way, if you're recalibrating HDR, it must be in the center of the screen. That's because we don't illuminate the entire screen when we're doing some of the HDR patterns, just to ensure that we're able to get up to 1000 nits brightness. For more information on the Omen Transcend 32, go to support.hp.com. Thanks for watching.